on a lovely California morning. It is, it is, what would Phil say? Harder than a snake's ass. Yeah. It's hot, says the man on his cable. It's a hot day, to say the least. But, these are quality problems, aren't they? That, you live in a place where it's really lovely and warm and, you can go down to the beach. Not that have I ever done that? I think in the 20 plus years I've lived here, coming on 25 years, I don't think I've been to the beach more than maybe 5 times, maybe 6. It's strange. If anybody here, there's LA people here. You know what I mean? LA people, you don't really go, oh, we're just going to pop down to the beach, because there's no such thing. It's an hour and a half anywhere to drive down to the beach, to maybe find parking, to stand amongst 1,000 people, and then you go, okay, and then you get back in the car and drive back again. Does your family ever pop down to the beach, Eric?
Not since I was very little.
Yeah. Which is strange, because when I first, growing up in England and in the home counties, and my family were all Londoners, or are all Londoners, so I would spend all my Christmas and Easter and all the holidays, summer and stuff in London with my grandparents, particularly my dad's grandparents, and we just. I think going on holiday to the beach and all that stuff was a whole different thing. You would drive to Wales. I had cousins in Wales. So we'd go to Wales and we'd go and stay with them. And then you'd drive, and that was totally different. It was like a holiday. That was the beach. But I was sitting there in England dreaming of California, like you do, dreaming of the weather, thinking when I moved to Los Angeles, because it was always something I wanted to do, was to go to LA and record at Sunset Sound and with the Doors and Love and all of these incredible bands that I grew up loving. And so I thought, and you can all laugh at me, all the Americans. I thought, you're going to get a Harley, going to go surfing, and I got here and I was like maybe here a week, and I was hanging out with Rick Parker, Rick Parker, the producer, and I was like, I really want to go to the beach. And he goes, cool, I'll pick you up at like 8 a.m. or something. I was like, really? He's like, oh, yeah. So he picks me up at 8, and we drive for like an hour and a half, and we finally get to Venice. And then we drive around for like 25 minutes, trying to find somewhere to park. And so eventually we park somewhere, and it's not close to the beach, and it's not close to anywhere. And then we walk for like 10 or 15 minutes to get to the beach area and all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, it was fun. It was fun, but it was my early baptism of fire, as it were, where you realize that it's not going to be just pop down to the beach. Anyway, how is everybody? We've got Chris Correll, we got Ed Kraus, we got Delvin, Frank, Trevor, Michael, Paul, Jens, Bruno, hey Bruno, Patrick Larson, Jens Nielsen, did I say Darko, hey Darko, Chris Ibbotson, Chris, I come in the top 5 of every mixed competition, Ibbotson. Did we talk about that yet? Chris, that was Matt Lang. Matt Lang had you at number 1. Matt Lang had you as his number 1 choice. Chloe had you at number 2. And I had a top 5 that was kind of evolving. I didn't have any order, and you were in my top 5. But I was like thinking to myself, I'm not going to decide. So we went with Chloe, Matt, then me. So my opinion was low on the totem pole. And yeah, Matt didn't know that you were an Academy member, nothing, and he loved your mix. So, wow. What did we get? 2,500 mixes or something? So, Chris Ibbotson. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay, who else do we have? Jörg. Hey, Jörg. Always lovely to see you. Carl Lindbergh. David Harris. Bobby Kane. Bobby, the great Bobby Kane. And yes, Bobby, we are going to do a video together. We're going to have Bobby sing on something. I don't know what it is at the moment. There's 100 different things that are in brewing up. But what I want to do is next time we do like a mic demo or something is get one shipped to Bobby and have him record the vocal. You know, so when we do one of those one mic demos, record something. So there's Ron Mockridge. Says, I live near the beach and that is a no-no. Yeah, can't you just walk across the street? Aren't you on like the other side of the street to the beach? I tend to head to the beaches in the evenings when crowds are starting to disperse. Robert Smart. That's what I should do. Paul Nielsen. Hey, Paul. Mark Beeson, sorry. Did I say Chris Coral, Don Ald, or Ald? Hey, Ken. I thought I was safe from the heat living in northern Norway, but it's hellishly hot this summer. Yeah, I was talking to Jamie Humphreys. Well, I talk to him all the time, but I think 2 days ago, and it was ridiculously hot there. And then I was talking to Ulf Blomberg, who is amazing, and we have a video coming out with him. And he says, you know, he just opens a window, but he's in southern Sweden. And he said it's just so hot. So, yeah, it's incredible that whole of Scandinavia is in a heat wave. Danielle, hey, Daniel. Am I missing anybody else out? Kyle, or Ken, sorry. Yep, that was Ken we just spoke about. I thought I saw Kyle. Steve K. Steve says he's honoured to be in the same chat room with Chris Ibbotson. Yes. I think when it comes to mixed competitions, it's Chris Ibbotson's world and we just live in it. Yeah. I mean, that was like number one, like number three, and like, yeah, I mean, it was like basically it averaged out second. Pretty amazing. When I told him, I was like, oh, Chris is an Academy member. He's like, really? And I was like, yep. I hope you're all not having this hot summer. I think pretty much everybody, Raoul, is having a hot summer. John says not in England. He has a jumper on. Well, my mum's down in Cornwall, and they've been having some ridiculously hot weather. But I spoke to her beginning of the week, so maybe I think she called me Monday. How was the holidays? It was lovely. I got a little bit of a tan. You can't tell with this lighting because you've got the blue light coming off the computer. Have we got the yellowy or you got the?
Yeah, although I think it's fading, and plus the light is really low.
Yeah, it's not worth turning it up because I'm already bleached out. But I know it's hard to tell in my famous English, Irish, Dutch skin. But I've got a lot more blends of countries, but that's all the first generation. Because I've got Dutch grandmother, Irish grandmother, half Irish mum, although she would identify as Irish, and then English and Dutch family on my father's side. So I don't know. But anyway, lots of Northern Europeans that can't tan, and lots of freckles. But I do eventually get a tan. I think, isn't that just age? You know, you start off as a little kid, you're white and freckly, and then you get red, and then eventually, after a few decades, you start to tan. Okay, Roy Burbeck says we're cooking hot here. Dan says New York City feels like 100 degrees. Bjorn says hi everyone. Raoul says, yeah, it's totally insane, far too hot. Bruno, weather here is crazier than ever, changing by the hour. John says, warm, congrats, which I think is... Frank says the weather's not too bad in Netherlands, or Dutchy land, as you put it. Not too bad. Yeah, the freckles collect. That was what my grandfather would say, my dad's dad would always say. Granddad Charles, he would always say, he goes, yeah, I'm just going to wait for all my freckles to connect so I can have a tan. Joey says he's 46 and still burns. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I still burn. Andy says Scottish. I shouldn't forget the fact that I've got a Scottish family as well. I love this world of melting pot. Paul says can't Zoom because he lays naked in bed at 2 a.m. Did I really just read that out loud? I did, didn't I? But ching. Breaking 100 for the next several days again. 47 still burning like a lobster. Yep, I hear you. All right. Hey, Matt. All right, let's listen to some tracks. Joe Jernicke is up first. Is Joe here? He usually is. Joe's wonderful. Done a lot of private calls with Joe, and he's grown as a mixer pretty dramatically. Joe says, here's my mix of Hold On To You by Steve Magora and Warren H., whoever he is. All comments are welcome. Here we go. Here is Joe's Hold On To Me. I've got a Strat here today. Let's pick up the Strat.
Days getting longer, darling. We're coming to the end of the road. The real world won't stop calling, but it's not the time to go. No, it doesn't have to be over. The lights still burn bright at our will. People will come and they'll bathe in the dirt just to find some place to be still. Living ain't just for the hopeful. Sunlight ain't just for the day. Leave all your sins at the table. We can just walk away when the fight is too strong. The sun doesn't shine. You're left with nothing. Hold on to me at the end of the night. And fear starts taking over. And words won't take their shape. As you drown out the sound of the darkness around you, you feel what you're dying to say. Drinking ain't just for the rambler. Courage ain't just for the brave. Leave all your sins at the table. We can just walk away when the fight is too strong. When the sun doesn't shine, you're left with nothing. Just hold on to me at the end of the night when the fight is too strong. And the sun doesn't shine, and you're left with nothing. Hold on to me at the end of the night. 'Cause living ain't just for the hopeful. Sunlight ain't just for the day. Drinking ain't just for the rambler. Courage ain't just for the brave. So leave all your sins at the table. Join me in walking away. Leave all your sins at the table. And we can just walk away when the fight is too strong. The sun doesn't shine. When you're left with nothing. hold on to me at the end of the night.
Yeah, so I agree with everybody. So two things. I think the choices, compression EQ wise, are pretty good, pretty darn good. And I like the choices with the delays on the vocals, some of that kind of stuff. But I do agree. For me, there's two inherent things, which is getting the vocal, the lead vocal, firstly, to sit a little bit more forward. But one of the problems why it isn't is because the bass, particularly the kind of clunkiness of the bass, the 700, 850, 115 area, the kind of nosiness of it is just a little bit too hot. So if you could, what I would do first of all is bring down that kind of mid-range boost more than anything else. And if you've separated it, Joe, into two elements, so you've got like a DI providing the low end and then an amp tone providing the clunkiness, that kind of what I'm talking about, that mid-range, or if you've taken one of the elements and split them and separated it into two halves, whichever way you've done it, just bring down that kind of, it's just a little bit overbearing. It actually takes my ear away from the vocals. So I would do that first before doing anything. Bring that element of the bass more into the track, then adjust the vocal. Because if you've got something that's dominating, like that does, that clunkiness of the bass, like, don't get me wrong, I like the low end on it. I just want to get rid of the pure mid-range articulation, which is distracting from the vocal. So if you can control that first, you might find that the vocal therefore doesn't have to come up as much. The last thing you want to do is tie yourself in circles, which so many of us do in mixing, which is turn the vocal up and go, okay, it's better now. Oh, the bass is too loud, turn the bass down. Now suddenly we've got used to the vocal being far too loud because we've brought it up and also brought down something that was competing with it. So get rid of the thing or bring down the thing that's competing first before then adjusting the vocal up. I think all the choices are fantastic. I mean, particularly the subtle reverb on the electric guitar, and the piano tone is fantastic. That, when you hear that is so good. What is that verb you're using, Joe? Do you guys hear that? It's really good for the guitar. It's a really good verb.
Days getting longer, darling. We're coming to the end of.
And so I'm on the fence on the reverb. Now, at the moment, the relationship between the reverb and the vocal reverb, obviously, the relationship between those two elements is a little wonky. It's a little bit dominated by reverb. But I think a dB of dry vocal there, possibly, to be honest, a dB and a half of dry vocal, might readdress the balance enough that the reverb doesn't have to come down. Why am I talking like that? Because for me, it's like, I think that Joe has created a soundscape here where it's classy and classic. So the reverb is definitely kind of all-encompassing and gives the song a classy kind of timeless feel. So it's not that I don't want the reverb to be big and blooming. I just don't want it to dominate the dry vocal. So before we turn the vocal reverb down, Joe, let's bring the vocal up, obviously after addressing the bass, like we said earlier. I think probably it's going to still come up about a dB and a half, and then listen to it. The only other thing that really bothered me was just like, I feel like you're using a lot of the DI electrics. And maybe if the amp's a little too driven for you, I totally understand. But maybe take the DI and put an amp sim on it and just give it a little bit of, you know what I mean? A little bit of, a little bit of grit. Just, I don't imagine this tone to be super clean, but I get it if you want it to be cleaner. See if you can find a place where it's just like a light amount of crunch, so it doesn't feel quite so thin. Because I'm hearing like these little like these little sort of like thin sounding DIs.
The real world won't stop calling.
I think a dB up on the 1.5 dB up on the vocal and the bass down a bit in the mids, not overall volume, but the mids, I think will sound great here. This goes back to the discussion that Ryan Miller was having. I'm going to point these things out because I was saying to Ryan, I was like, we do talk about that stuff all the time. He was saying that he had a revelation seeing Andrew Sheps talking about boosting or cutting, boosting EQ to make something louder. And I was like, well, actually, we talk about that all the time. So what I'm going to do now is point that out. So what we're doing here on the bass, for instance, is we're not asking Joe to turn the bass down. Far from it. We like the low end and the fullness of the bass. What we're asking here is to turn down some of the mid-range articulation in the same way that we might take a guitar and boost some high mids to make it feel like it's coming more forward, but we're not turning it up. We are, but we're turning up selective amounts of the frequency rather than pushing up everything. So in this instance, we're taking down the mid-range, the 7, the 850, the 1, the 1.5 kind of area. So it's like that kind of honkiness, bringing it down, rebalancing the bass. So the bass is more about the fullness. And then we're going to bring the vocal up probably about 1.5 dB and see how the reverb feels now in relation to the lead vocal.
Real world won't stop calling.
Yeah, Joe, did I miss it? What did Joe say the reverb was on the guitar? I think it's spectacular. It reminds me of to be honest, it reminds me of an SPX 90. Tim saying going on my list. Neo Very. I don't even know what that is. Neo Very. Neo Very. I don't see that. Oh, Neo Verb. Okay. We must have that, yeah? If it's Isotope.
Gotta check. Oh yeah, I think we do.
What was the preset? What was the setting, or did you make your own one? Neoverb Pro. Oh yeah, now I know it. We tested this out. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah. Oh, what was your setting? Can you send us the preset you were using? Or the one you created even? Send it to us. I'd love to know what it was. Yeah. Sorry, the Neoverb. We tested this. Yeah, this is really good. God, this is what happens. Sometimes we test these plugins and we're like, we love this. This is absolutely amazing. And then I mix and forget. What? Joe Jernicke Neoverb? Look. Because it came up. Because it's on his track.
Oh.
It comes up like you look at that. That's so funny because it's on the track. Look, it says Joe Jernicke Neoverb. That's it. Forever will be known as that. So whenever anybody's using the Neoverb in the Academy, we can say, "Oh, we're using the Joe Jernicke trick." Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, please get us your settings. Ken says I bought it 2 days ago. Isn't that crazy? That's what happens. Custom settings. Please send us please send us it. I mean, that's one of my favorite guitar reverb sounds I've ever heard. Listen to it again. See if you guys and girls can hear. Yeah, I forget I have these plugins, and I remember how good this plugin was. It just sounds so good. It reminds me of like a Dave Jordan. It's almost Jane's Addiction, and it's got that. And I think he would probably be using an SPX, or which is what Andy Wallace uses, an SPX 90. There's a reverb they use on the guitars. It reminds me of that.
Days getting longer, darling. We're coming to the end.
Great. See, this is why we love the Academy. We're always learning from each other. So if you can get into those changes, Joe, I'd love to hear that, what you end up with afterwards. And you might have to automate the vocal a little bit more, not just turning it up like the dB.5 after you've adjusted that bass mid-range. It might be a case of just automating it so it just works in places. All right. Without having to use too much compression is what I'm trying to say. All right, next up we have Dan. Here we go. And Dan says, here's my mix. Welcome any comments and feedback. First submission on Plap. Yay! Congratulations. Looks like John Sammers got involved. Thank you, John. Always great when people get involved here, not on these posts, as well as, of course, now. It's all part of the process. All right. Let's give it a listen. Old-fashioned.
Jagged metronome of typewriter keys. A simple thought brings you to me, and I'm thankful every day. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. In a time when we want it all, everything so fast. Write a text, no time to call. To slow down, oh, I pray. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. I'll write to you with ink from a pen. Feel the weight as the words sink in. My mind moves too fast for my hand. I need to tell you this while I still can. It was so dark that warm summer night. I much prefer it to the bright blue light. And I feel the need to say, I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. I'll write to you with ink from a pen. Feel the weight as the words sink in. My mind moves too fast for my hand. I need to tell you this while I still can. Jagged metronome of typewriter keys. Another page done, my soul at ease. And I'm thankful every day. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way.
I think on the whole, it's absolutely beautiful mix. And it's really, really super close. Dan's vision and the way that Dan has put it together is really rather wonderful. So I think the cymbal swells, the overheads, at least when the cymbals are playing, can get just a little bit brash. Some of those shh, is just a little bit. And these headphones, for those of you, I know a lot of you use these Blues as well. We know that they're not flat, and we tried them out. We talk about it every time. The reason why I use these Blues specifically when it's doing this is because they're extended in the low end. They're hyped. They're not flat. They're not flat at all, but they're not very high MIDI either. So which is actually okay, which means they're not exhausting, because sometimes the high mids, of course, and some headphones are fantastic to put on, but about an hour later, you just don't want to wear them anymore because you're getting fatigued from the high mids. So when I hear something like that, where the high mids gets a little bit too aggressive, it concerns me a little bit, because I know that for a kid maybe on earbuds where it's all high mids, that's going to be that's going to be very, very aggressive. So see, Dan, if you can just tame that, it could be one of two things. It could be a volume thing, to be honest. It could be that if you just brought them down ever so slightly, that would work. The other thing that we often do and recommend in those situations, like also with acoustic guitars that have that excessiveness, is to just put a de-esser across them. Put a de-esser on your overheads. So if they just go, they might be like, shh, something like, oh, and it might not necessarily be that the volume is too much of all the frequencies. Going back again to what we talked about earlier, it might be about controlling specific frequencies over turning it down, because the overheads are obviously giving the drums, they're making the drums feel really good. The drums feel fantastic. I love the snare. Have a listen. So my guess is, I'm sure you all agree with this, is that the overheads are contributing to that drum sound. So solving a problem like cymbals being too brash shouldn't be global for the 4 times that the 3 times that the cymbals get too brash. We should just be finding a way to correct that area. So de-essers are good, because when it gets to that shh and just gets too loud in those ear-piercing frequencies in that 3 to 5K area, you might just want to put a de-esser or multiples or a multi-band, or if you've got money to spend, an Oak sound, put an Oak sound on that. So soothe. But you don't want to just generically turn all the overheads down. That would be a foolish idea. So it goes back to the same conversation we were having with, Ryan Miller brought up, oh my God, boosting EQ. Yes, it's a similar thing here. What we've got is got a situation where we want to control not volume overall, but volume of certain parts. But I don't think it's necessarily turning the cymbals down, because I like the wash. I like the excitement of it. It's just about taming the high mids. So that's the first thing. Really wonderful mix. And I do agree, the double is a little initially disconcerting.
Jagged metronome of typewriter keys, a simple thought.
Russell's saying, for anyone who has it, have used the Soothed plugin Adaptive Dynamic EQ on cymbals. I agree.
Jagged metronome of...
So the vocal's a little dry there. I definitely hear the compression, but I kind of like it. I do actually like it, but you do hear the... I'm exaggerating, but you hear this closeness. But I like it. But I think it's just too dry. I think I love the idea a lot of this vocal being up front and dry, but I don't make it entirely. Give it just a little bit of room, a little... Frankly, that Joe Jernicke guitar reverb turned down would be really good on this.
Jagged metronome of typewriter keys, a simple thought brings you to me, and I'm thankful every
text, no time to call. To slow down, oh, I pray. I'm so glad I found you the old-fashioned way. I'll write.
It's just on the verge. You know what I'm saying? It's just on that right near the tail end of it, the second half of it. It just needs taming. It doesn't need turned down. It needs certain frequencies turned down in the same way we were talking about earlier about, you know, boosting and cutting frequencies.
I'll write to you with ink from.
Yeah, I agree, Russell. I mean, the only issue would be, like I was saying, in this instance, I wouldn't adjust the EQ of the overall overheads, under Sagittarius. Anyway, anybody know my airplane reference? Anyway, but I wouldn't adjust the overall EQ because it's really tasty on the snare. You know, so there, I agree with you, but sometimes, you know, having a tool that's taming, you know, dynamically like that is actually probably the best way of going. But I know what you mean. I'm not always. I've done plenty of mixes since getting Soothe where I don't use it. It's a tough one now because when you listen to modern pop production and modern pop mixing, there's so many dynamic EQs and multiband EQs on everything these days. Everything is so tamed and controlled. I mean, the king of that for me is Bob Horn. You know, we've done a lot of courses with Bob Horn, and he really knows how to control things. He will just rip it apart and rebuild it and make it like completely and utterly controlled. Roger over, underdone.
I'll write to you with ink from a pen. Feel the weight as the words sink in.
I must say, Dan, your bass mix is really good. Dan, the tone of the bass, I mean, it's well recorded, don't get me wrong, but it, what's the vector, Victor? Yeah. But it sounds great. Again, just that little control of that, just a little bit. Because I want to crank this. I want to turn this up. This is a great mix. But just, you know.
My mind moves too fast for my hand. I need to tell you this while I still can. It was so dark that warm summer night. I much prefer it to the bright blue light.
Yeah, I think just that little tiny bit of closeness reverb would do great. Some control on the cymbals there. It's a really, really close mix. I would be very proud of this one, Dan. See, there's a moment just the cymbals like, hey.
Jagged metronome of typewriter keys. Another page done. My soul.
Now, there was a couple of moments that people pointed out, a couple of moments where the double was a little bit off. So feel free to vocal line it a little bit if necessary. And, yeah.
I'll write to you with ink from a pen. Feel the weight as the words sink
I'm in love with this. I think it's fantastic. Sorry, I just had to talk to Eric. We're having a piano delivered today. Getting another Baldwin piano. And last night I was, not last night, yesterday I was at Andrew Wells's studio, and he has another Baldwin piano. There must have been a period in America where Baldwin just sold thousands and maybe tens of thousands student model and upright pianos. Everybody I know has one. Now I'm going to have two. Two uprights. So we're putting it into the house where we're building the other studio, all of which, of course, will be filmed. So, yeah, God bless it. All right. This is very exciting. This is very exciting indeed. That was a really, really great mix, Dan. I think a little tiny bit more low-lows on the kick, just a tiny, tiny bit, just a little bit would give it a little bit more class, just a little bit. The bass sound was absolutely perfect. I think if you can get in and get that double to just feel a little bit more locked at times and a couple of times, either vocal align it if you have the plug-in or just move a couple of words along. Sometimes personally, when it's that close that you've got it at the moment, I might just suggest cutting a word or a phrase here and there, because if you use vocal align and make it too perfect, it can start to sound phasey because you get almost a cancellation of the two things. It can be really pleasing, but I have a rule with vocal align. So with vocal align, I don't tune and vocal align. That's not entirely true, but what I mean is I wouldn't go through, take a lead vocal, then tune a double like perfectly, and then vocal align it. If you do that, it's robot voice central. And so what I will do is I will, take doubles, like sometimes in pop, you've got 2 or 3 doubles. I'll take the doubles and I'll vocal align them, or at least time them before doing anything. So even in solo, if it feels like together there's a bit of pitch changes, time it up first. Because if you time it up first, you'll find that that little rub can actually be pleasing when the timing's good, and it makes the vocal sound thicker. You start to get what sounds like a band and real people singing tight together. Because in the world we're in now, where we're moving super, super fast, what's happening is, I'm sure you're very, very aware, we used to go into a studio for a few days and do harmonies, and you'd punch in and you'd get it right, and you would get it not right like so it looks right, but so it sounds right. And sounds right means tight and matching the pitch so it sounds good. That doesn't mean matching the pitch. Like, these weren't done in isolation. You didn't have like you would sometimes with writing a part, you might go da 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 da, you might play a piano part and then sing the but then the next person coming in to sing your a harmony to you has to make the vocal fit around it. It's not about like just playing the next piano tone. The skill was in the great background singers was to make the vocals sound good together. And that really sounds obvious. I know it's an obvious thing to say, but it's not how people record anymore. Now what people do is they record and tune and record and tune and record and tune. And even if they're just subtly recording, subtly tuning, I get it, but it's still not the same philosophy as building real harmony tracks where people sing together, often on the same mic. So, together, like standing opposite each other, like John and Paul did when a figure of eights, you had one on one side and one on the other. So what I'm saying is, people are moving fast, and I get it, and they don't have time, they don't have budget, so they'll layer a bunch of doubles. Don't go to the tune straight away. Go to the timing first, because that little rub can actually make the vocal sound thicker. All right, Corwin is up next. Hey, Corwin. Corwin says, ever have a mix that leaves you just sort of scratching your head as to why it's not working for you? That's me with my recent mix of Who Do You Think You Are? Corwin, I don't know if you watched the video on this. This is one of the biggest pain in the butt productions I've ever done in my life. It's just a straight ahead, I do the inverted, straight ahead rock tune. And I love Ronnie. She is a wonderful person. She's a family friend. She was in, Venus with Razor Blades. She wrote one of the big hits for the Runaways. She's a legend. People love her. She's very, very important in the Los Angeles music scene. In that kind of, she's one of the first, Karen probably knows her, one of the first kind of pioneering, successful women in the 70s in our industry. But recording this was like pulling teeth. She wanted 70s rock, but insisted on using Kenny. And I'm a huge Kenny Aronoff fan, but he's not a 70s rock drummer. He's a freaking machine. He's like, ka, ka, ra, ka, 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 ka. You know, I mean, it's like a freaking warfare when he plays drums. It's amazing. It's consistent. But she wanted Buffy snare. She wanted Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. She wanted, but she got gang, gang, gang. So we then spent, I don't know, hours, days remixing and changing the snare sound and doing all stuff. So much so that the eventual mix that came out does not sound good. It's totally compromised. And then we had all these different competing overdubs and guitar stuff, and it's a mess. So we did this specifically as a challenge. So what I'm saying, Corwin, is you're not alone. This is a struggle. Corwin says, I don't dislike it, talking about the mix, and the individual elements I like. I think the tonal balance is okay. I don't at all think it's a bad mix, but there's something about me that's bugging me, and I don't know what it is. I feel like it lacks a bit of energy. A little bit of F yeah, fist in the air sort of thing. Maybe I could brighten up the guitars. Maybe the low end is a bit stodgy. Maybe I need to emphasize transients more for the groove. I don't know. Any help, advice, and anything from the Plappers is more than 100% welcome. I think a lot of it is to do with the recording. And I recorded it. And I produced it with her. And I think that this is always going to be a struggle. It's a tough one because I wrote this song with the keyboard player from Aerosmith. We wrote it years ago when we were in a band together. So I get you. I think the demo we did with him for our band, it was better than, but it was done on ADATs, better than what we did with Ronnie. But Ronnie obviously wanted to recut it. So this is a tough one. But this is why it's worth doing, have a challenge. If you haven't downloaded it yet, has the multi-tracks been put up, please?
Right there.
They're going to be put up now. If you haven't downloaded it, worked on it yet, I challenge you to do this one. It's a real pain in the butt.
Love one another, help one another. Don't you think you know by now? If I do what I please, would it all fall to pieces? All this time we still don't know how. It hasn't been easy, I know. You can pray to the Father, go home to your mother. She's waiting there with open arms. Yes, when it's resting on your shoulder, it's time to make up that little bitty mind. Now, well, who do you think you are to say that you love me? Walk out on me. Won't you tell me who do you think you are to reach out and touch me? Say you're sorry now. Who do you think you are? Say you love me. You walk out on me. Tell me now. Who do you think you are? Reach out and touch me. Say you're sorry one time now. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you
Fantastic. So the good news is, Corwin, it's not a million miles away from what, I do think, again, I like to be self-effacing as much as possible and like all the time. And the biggest problem with this song is the recording, the production, and all of that I am fully responsible for. And, even though, I can say the artist had decisions that made decisions that I didn't agree with, that didn't help the song in the way it should have. Ultimately, though, I was the producer with her, but I still, you can't sort of like be that guy that's wagging the finger. Trust me, I know that's the world we live in now, isn't it? Everybody ranting and waving fingers and complaining and stuff like that. But in a professional situation, it is my job because even if the artist has a bad idea, I've still got to make that bad idea work. And so I actually think, Corwin, it's a lot better than you think, considering what you have to work with. Eric put the link up. If you haven't mixed this song yet, please mix it. So Russell says, I'm intrigued to see what he says. If I were to take this on, I'd put a lot more attention on each section and make decisions on what the instruments sound to highlight and which to pull back. Yes. Now, there's a piano on this, which is not the world's best played piano. I know, because I played it, and it's played on another Baldwin discussion on the Baldwin over there. So to cut a long story short, that can help because it adds a mid-range. It adds a 700, 1K kind of thickness in there, which I think was lacking in some of the guitars. But you've got acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and piano all playing that part.
Put it all together. Is it getting any better? Well, who do you think you are to say that you love me? Walk out on me. Won't you tell me who do you think you are to reach out and touch me? Say you're sorry. Oh, who, yeah, do you think you are?
So if you think about it from If you think about it from a Stones thing, that's what we should be hearing more of. We should be hearing more of that movement, which is what the attempt with the piano was. But I think what happens is you don't hear that Rolling Stonesy thing. And I don't think, Corwin, you're at fault for it. I think what's happening is there's just too much going on. And I think, as Russell was saying, it's probably a case of mute is more. Maybe go back to those verses, when we're all mixing this track and muting more. But one of the things that we faced, and again, Kenny Aronoff is one of my favorite drummers and was amazing, but wasn't right for this song. So he's powering through where it really should be Joey Kramer's snare. It should be more poof. It should be, like I said, it shouldn't be going. It should be, there for your mothers. It should have a bit more bounce to it and be a little bit boofier and classic 70s. That was the references that we had. But what we've got is more modern ringing snare. So it's going to be a difficult one. I think that Corwin did a really, really good job here. I think there's things I would do more muting. I would turn some more stuff off. I think this is the version where somebody time corrected this to make it 4/4 on the outro rather than the original weird timing that I did. But that's fine. I know there was a lot of people going, oh, that's weird, the timing, because the outro originally is the riff, which is... and it's a 7. I'm not counting it. But anyway, the point is, it was always like a weird kind of timing, but it threw people off. And anyway, so that's irrelevant. You can use whatever version you like. Let me have listen to one more thing. Karen, I saw you arrive. We were talking about Ronnie Lee. Are you friends with Ronnie? You must know Ronnie.
Shared all the good times and through all the hard times. It hasn't been easy, I know. You can pray to the Father, go home to your mother. She's waiting there with open arms. Yes, when it's resting on your shoulder, it's time to...
Yeah, it's too full on, isn't it? As we would say in the UK, it's too full on. It needs to come down. But even Kenny playing side stick is like, he can't help himself. It makes him one of the best drummers in the world. Every hit is consistent. And live must be so exciting to hear this powerhouse of a drummer behind you. But it needed to be more Joey Kramer. It definitely needed to be more subdued in the verses and let the choruses explode. So this is a good example of why muting would be useful. Like less in here. And another thing is the bass player played really heavy with a pick and was overdriving the DI because we sound checked, got good tone, and then he just cranked. And so we were tracking and he was just clipping that DI, which I'm sure those of you who have mixed it will know.
Shared all the good times and through all the hard times. It hasn't been easy, I know. You can pray to the Father, go home to your mother. She's waiting there with open arms. Yes, when it's resting on your shoulder, it's time.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on in that section. And then the horns get a little lost there. So I think stripping it back, imagining if it was the Stones, like 2 guitars, bass, drums. You can have Ian Stewart on keyboards, except you got me, unfortunately. Anybody that wants to replay the piano, I am down. Electric piano, upright, whatever you want to do. This, like I said, this is a victim of overproduction and having the wrong drum performance. And the thing is having this like powerhouse drummer, not playing with as many dynamics as they should. It shapes because it's built from the ground up. So it doesn't have a Charlie Watts kind of like haphazard groove. He's like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have that kind of Charlie Watts angly kind of groovy, good. And then it doesn't have the Keith and Ronnie sloppy kind of kind of thing. all of those things are exactly what this song needs and doesn't have. So, Corwin, I think you did a good job, but I think, as Russell was pointing out, I think probably the best way to improve this mix is to mute more stuff. And then the only real EQ thing that bothered me is the toms. You get rid of some of those, that 350, 400 area, because they sound a little bit cardboardy. Get in there and like pull out some of those low mids so you hear more of a when they're played. Great stuff. And thanks for doing that. And I challenge people to do that song. You know, you could get in there and recut the, you know, you could recut the drums and think more 70s Aerosmith and recut the piano and then mute a lot of stuff. And I think that would turn out to be a really great mix. Also, Ronnie tends to play with a lot of overdrive, a lot of distortion, where the Stones, you know, you've heard me tell this story that Don Smith told. If you haven't, I'll tell it again quickly. He said that when he was tracking the Stones, and I think he did 3 Keith Richards solo records, all of which, of course, are masterpieces, Main Offender, Expensive Winos, and what was the third one? Anyway, he did 3 records with Keith, and the guitar tones and the records sound like what you want the Stones to sound like. I'm sure you all know those, or if you don't, go and listen to those 80s and early 90s Keith Richards solo records. They're phenomenal sounding. And Steve Jordan on drums. Beautiful. Anyway, he told me that Keith would come in every few days with something new. You know, people would give him new guitars to try out. But one of the things was amps. And he said that he'd get like these different like hand-built amps. And Don just said Keith sounds best on a Champ. I think it's the 12 watt, might be the 6 watt, but a Champ, like volume, tone. Crank it a little bit, stick a 57 in front of it, and it sounds like Keith Richards. But he would come in with these different kind of fancy amps. I think he brought in was it Dumble? You know, all of those things. And he said what he would do is he would split it. So Keith would listen to the amp and set up a tone, but he'd always record the Champ. Doesn't matter what he did. He said the Champ just sounds amazing. So even if he was recording and playing back like the new fancy amp, he'd always record the Champ and always would end up using the Fender Champ in the mix. And I'm sure those of you that have tried Champs, there is only a certain level of distortion you can get with them. And it's crunch, you know, it's crunch, and it sounds like the Stones. And so I think that's another thing here is a lot of the guitars in the chorus, which is probably also equally to match the energy of the drums, were overdriven, too overdriven. So I don't know. Have at it. I would love to see you guys and girls try a new drum track on it, try some keys, try some other stuff. I know it's a lot of time and effort, but I think, honestly, that's what would improve the production of the song. All right, next up is Danielle. Says, hello, nothing really special on this. I wanted to keep it pretty close to the original mix with a few things changed. I added kick and snare samples to the existing drums for extra punch and a bit of an 80s vibe. Feedback is welcomed and appreciated. Please get on there and leave some feedback. I know that's only been out there a couple of days, but always lovely when I read some feedback. Here we go. Karen says, love me some crunch. Speaking of which, we should order some food because 1 o'clock will run around and we won't have anything to eat. I'm thinking some tacos.
Nice.
Tacos for the troops. Here we go.
Shot through the heart and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. An angel smile is what you sell. Promise me heaven, but put me through hell.
your smile on your lips, blood red nails on your fingertips. Schoolboy's dream, you act so shy. Your very first kiss was your first kiss goodbye. Ooh, she's a loaded gun. Ooh, nowhere to run. No one can save me. The damage is done. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game, darling. You give love a bad name. Yeah, you give love. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game, darling. You give love a bad name. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game, darling. You give love a bad name.
I got to be honest, I absolutely love that. So, yeah, it's great to have more of an 80s drum sound. So, Phil and I, who I was chatting with this morning, coincidentally enough, what we would do is we would work late, like you do, and then for some unknown reason, we would be like, hey, let's do some covers. So we decided to come up with this band called Ban Jovi, like Bon Jovi, but Ban Jovi. Yes, you guessed it, really obvious. And we started doing Bon Jovi covers with the banjo, and there is the result. I think we did 3 or 4. I don't know how many we loaded up into the Academy. I'll have to double check that. But there you go. That's Ban Jovi. I really like what Daniel did there by putting that extra kick and snare on it. I think it was very, very smart. It's funny hearing the octave down low vocal.
Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. An angel smile is what you sell. Promise me heaven, but put me through hell. Chains of love got a hold on me. When passion's a prison, you can't break free. Ooh, she's a loaded gun. Ooh, nowhere to. Shot through the heart. Through the heart.
Thanks for doing this. I know somebody else did it a few weeks ago, and I'd forgotten about it. It's really good. I mean, the thing with this track, and with the idea of, like, you know, doing banjo versions of country-ish versions of classic rock, I suppose they are classic rock songs now, is that there's a sense of humor and there's some silliness to it. And I've got to be honest, I don't have anything other than positive things to say because I feel like Daniel has gone and got the positive, you know, with the voice that goes down there and then the effect at the end. It almost sounds like it sounds like The Wall, doesn't it? Make sure I turn that back down. It's, you know, from a mix perspective, it's absolutely, it's really, really good. I would probably bring this down. I mean, I like it, but it does seem a little too up there. Bring that you know, the clap there, the synthetic clap. I would bring that down. I'd bring the solo up. It should be more obnoxious. It was a joke solo. I played one take and we used it. And the banjo solo is a joke. You know, it's messy. It's deliberately kind of blah, 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 blah. And then me playing. I'm playing on top of the track for guys like Darren Ross. Oh, there's Darren. Great lead solo, says Darren. Yeah, I appreciate it. But you can tell I'm deliberately... I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm playing on top of the track to make it seem like, yeah, we're frantic rock guys. But the solos should come up. Maybe the banjo's fine.
Shot through the heart, and you're to blame.
I love that outro there. Yeah, the solo should just come up like a DB. The outro there, there's a squeak. I would probably turn the squeak up for silliness.
Shot through the
Just bring that up for silliness. I like the reverb effect going over the vocal breakdown.
shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a bad name. I play my part, and you play your game, darling. You give love a bad name. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame.
Russell's suggesting maybe more of a sloppy hand clap. Yeah, you could do something maybe a little bit more organic. That's not a bad idea when we think about it, because it is, the 80s drums are great, but that's not a bad idea. Maybe try something a bit more organic in this first verse. Carl said just add a little Avicii on the top of it and you've got a hit. Kenneth is saying Weird Al. Yeah, I mean, we could have... That's a good point. We should have changed the lyrics. You know, Dave Way... what is the connection? It's Dave Way's wife's sister's married to Weird Al or something like that?
Oh, yeah, something weird.
Yeah, I think Dave Way's... I don't remember if it's a sister or any... I think it's his wife's sister's married to Weird Al, or his wife's cousin's married to Weird Al. It might not be immediate family. It might be second or something like that. But yeah, he ends up working a lot with Weird Al, and Weird Al will come down and track, and they've done stuff together. So yeah, maybe we should get Weird Al to see if he wants to do a vocal on it. Change the lyrics up. All right, fantastic. Next up is Daniel Becker. Hey, Daniel. Great work, Danielle. Danielle. And now we have Daniel. Okay, give me a second. Just try and figure out why this isn't working. Here we go. And Roy comes up next. So what's going on here, Eric?
Oh, I might have had it in the wrong order. That is my mistake.
But I don't see Roy on here.
Okay, let me add it. Oh, okay. I see what happened, because this one, I had to switch this one out.
But who is it?
I
Is it
think-
Daniel or Roy?
That's Daniel's actual track. I had to switch it out because there's a sample rate issue with it, I think, and I sent him a message asking about that.
Who, Roy or Daniel?
Daniel. So I wanted to replace him with Roy. So let me get that, and I'll add it.
Okay, so I'll skip that for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, and I'll download that now and add it.
Okay, so we're going to jump on. Roy, we are going to get to you. We're going to jump on to Michel or Michael, depending on where you are. And says, hello, fellow plappers. I gave this everything I had, some reamping on the bass and the guitars, but nothing that drastically changed the original tones. The song grows on you. It's now time to learn from your beautiful ears, you beautiful people. Hope you tap your foot and enjoy. Thank you.
Blame it on the whiskey. Blame it on the bad weed. Blame it on the only thing you've ever seen. Run and tell your mother. Blame it on your brother. Blame it on the only thing you've ever heard. All you do is try to deny. All you do is lie. Even when you know it just ain't right. All you do is lie. All you do is try to deny. All you do is lie. Even when you know it just ain't right. All you do is lie.
I mean, I think on the whole, is Michel or Mikel there? I think on the whole, I really, really like it. It's big, it's bold, it's brash. My only thing is the high end on the guitars. I wasn't reading any comments there. I was listening. I felt like the high end is just sizzly. It's just, it's not It's not tough. It's got that kind of psst. That could be the reamping of the guitars. I don't know. My gut is you put a different impulse response on there. You put something like, if you have my impulse response, go and use the what's it called? The hemp cab. What's that cab called again? It's the small black one.
Yes.
It's dark. It's really dark, and it would be perfect for this. I mean, the Marshall we have is fantastic because it's got original 25s and 30s in it. It's Vivian Campbell's cab. But the Tone Tubby is a hemp driver. For those of you that don't know, so that's what Slash uses. He puts them in his Marshalls. I'm not supposed to tell people that. But yeah, as Ken was saying, it's a little harsh. It's just on those highs. It's a little just ripping my head off. It's a tough one with all amp sims, virtuals, whatever we want to call them. They tend to have a little bit, Tone Tubby. So that's what I would do. That's really what I would do. Just try and take off some of that edge of it. Have a listen. It's interesting. I love the toms. We were talking earlier about toms being a little thuddy and removing some of the low mids. Listen here, the toms are just fantastic. But you hear how the guitar's high end and the electric guitars, electric guitars high end and cymbals is just blending together in a not very pleasing way. So you just kind of get this sheen, but sheen sounds too polite. It just doesn't have that kind of energy that I want. I want more guitars like ripping, like toughness, and I want the cymbals sitting and being beautiful and open around it. But here they are, and they're just kind of together. But yeah, what I would do is I would suggest an impulse response on it. Maybe you are using one. The Tone Tubby one we did is fantastic. Also the Marshall one, but there's plenty of really good impulses. But that's what I would suggest. Okay. It's one of my main things. Otherwise, it's pretty darn good. It's a great mix. It's interesting. There's lots of things that we could talk about on this. Like everything feels a little stodgy, like kind of blended together. You know what I mean? It's sort of glued, but I like it. I think that this is something we have to be super, super aware of. It might be a good way of thinking about the Who Do You Think You Are mix. Instead of like having a lot of instruments, like on the Who Do You Think You Are one, maybe slim it down and just use a bit more compression so things kind of glue together. What this does is it sounds very kind of tape-like, even though we know it's not a tape mix and wasn't recorded on tape. It starts to feel really kind of satisfying. It's only that sort of shrill high end on the guitars that lets it down. Otherwise, have a listen here. I like the relationship between the bass and the kick. I mean, you could always add a tiny bit more subbiness to a kick. You know, I don't have any problem with, you know, an extra 5% of sub on there. But in general, I like the way the bass, the kick, and the guitars kind of low end work together. It sounds glued. It sounds, I hate to use it, analog, tape. You know, it does feel a lot like that. So I think if we can get these guitars to be a bit more like mid-rangey, sort of screaming, less shrill, high end, it mixing in with the cymbals, just rebalance that. I think you're about 99% of the way there. Yeah, it feels like the guitars are maybe just skinnied down just a little bit. You could actually, the thing is, if you want to dial some more lows or low mids back on the guitars, you are going to have to look at the relationship between the bass and the guitars. However, I don't think it's so much that. I think it's less of the sort of shrill high end boost and maybe a bit more toughness in the mids. Yeah. You know, which is weird. It's like, it's similar to where the bass toughness is. So sometimes, you know, Dave Jordan and Brian Colstrom would always have me boost like 350 on guitars, which I know is not a very traditional area. Like when I was working on the Aerosmith record, we were mixing some songs. I'm sure you've heard me tell the story 1,000 times, but Neil Avron started mixing the record while I was still tracking it, and then when I finished tracking it, I took over and finished the record. Without him, we would never got that record finished. But what I would do is I go over and see him work on the SSL 6000 in Paramount, and I went over there and I noticed he would go at about 200. So he was always boosting about 200 on guitars to make them connect with the bass, which was living in the 80 to 100, and of course the kick, which was living in 40 to like 80, 40 to 60, 70. All of those things made sense. Dave Jordan, on the other hand, would always have me boost around about 350 on the guitars. And I think on this one, that's what I would do. I would get in there about 350 and get a little bit of low mid thickness back in on the guitars, so they just kind of feel a little warmer without going too warm, without stepping on the bass, and then try and control this fizziness on the top, for want of a better word, and just get maybe a bit of 1.5, maybe a tiny bit of toughness there as well, just a bit. I think, to be honest, it's probably an impulse response on the amp sim that will help this out more than anything. And like I said, a darker amp sim, like a Tone Tubby, would probably, IR, darker one like that, would probably solve a lot of those problems, you know? Great. Wonderful work, wonderful work. Did you figure out this mix?
I do. I have it on a flash drive.
Okay, well, Eric's going to give us a joke of the day. And I'm going to swap over there for a second. Actually, no, I'm going to go and make sure that we've got this piano delivery sorted out. We're having a piano delivered.
We also have a new intern, Lily.
Oh, we have another new?
Another new one.
Oh, wow.
She's the one that does podcasts.
Oh, okay, really?
Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm so used to just like hopping on and doing something and forgetting that we are live right now and people are watching. Let me throw this on. I'm sure I have a joke somewhere. Let's see. We just did Blame It on the Whiskey, so I will put this one here. And there it is. Poof, poof. Great. And Daniel, I'm sorry about that that mix up. I think listening to your track, I think it's the wrong sample rate. Let me double check. Oh, I can hear myself. Oh, I have the right track on there. I have the wrong name on there. That's what it is. So the name's right. So that was all fine. I just put Daniel's name. And Daniel, your mix wasn't on there, but your original track, I think the sample rate's wrong because it's the key is very low and it sounds stretched. But please, I did email you, or I sent you a message on the Academy. So please reply or send me an email at eric@PrettySecondPro. If it was meant to be that way, then, well, regardless, I can get you in next week. But if it was meant to be that way, I'll get that mix in there. If there was sample rate issues, then just send me over a revised or any other mix, whatever you want, and I'll get you in next week regardless. And we are set right there. I might as well put it down here because we already did Blame It on the Whiskey. And yeah, this is Chase K's Lonely One. So that's ready. Yeah, and it already has minus 3 dB because I'm trying to get everything to 14 LUFS. Not long term, short term. But yeah, cool. We're all set. Let me make sure. Great. There's that. Yeah. Everything's back in order. We've gotten a huge, just a ton of interns, new ones from a school. I hit up a school and working with the school to, like, you know, get interns from them, help their students with career after. I think they've all, I think they're all done with school. I don't know if they're still in it, but they've sent us a ton of interns. So it seems like every day we have someone new coming in. And well, in total right now, we should have like 5 new ones. So going from just, well, we did have 2 interns before that, but they come and go. Sometimes, you know, things just don't work out, whether it's schedule-wise or like, one of them was really young. He had 3 bands going on. He was 18, 3 bands going on, and trying to do this. And something had to give, and he chose this to work on his music. It's totally cool. It happens. Plus, he's going back to school. So interns do come and go a lot for many reasons. But yeah, it's funny. That's why when I told Warren about the new intern, he was like, what, another one? It's just so many new ones coming through, which is good. Less work that me and Connor have to do. But joke of the day. Let me do a quick little search. Wow, I really don't like hearing my own voice, so I'm putting the headphones away. My singing is suddenly on time when I switch from 44.1 to 48. And I sound younger. It'll do that, huh? The interns, the school we're getting the interns from this time is the LA Recording School. It's like there's the LA Film and Music, or LA Film School, and they have a where's your mask, the man behind the mask? They have a recording program like within it. So there's like an LA Recording School that's right next to Sunset Sound, and I always see it when we drive by, and I always wondered about it. So I messaged MI, the Musicians Institute, and the LA Recording School. Got something set up with them to bring in some interns, some students, and yeah, so far so good. It's nice. It's nice having a lot of people here. Everyone's working, and then hanging out and just talking and joking around. It's nice. Seems like there's a lot going on, and we're all just kind of hanging out. More personalities in the room, and just more, you know, because there's only so much So many jokes. You can tell when it's just you and Warren. Kidding. But speaking of jokes, how are trumpets like pirates? How are trumpets like pirates? Yeah, the programs for finding like the recording programs, it's tough, especially right now because the students were telling us that with COVID, the school itself is not open. Everything's gone online, so everything is Zoom. Um, oh, Jim Morrison was in the LA Film School, and I think that's the school that we got these kids from. Their subdivision, the LA Recording School. But yeah, right now it seems really tough because they were saying that because of COVID, that the school itself, like to go in person, is closed. It's all Zoom. So you're not really getting the same education because you're not able to go into their studios and be hands-on with them. And they even have to pay the same price. There's no price difference. They said that there's like a big thing with a lot of students that are getting together that are trying to bring down the price because you can't be that you've gotten so much taken away from you. You can't go in person and you're doing everything on Zoom, so you might as well just hop on Produce Like a Pro YouTube channel, because we're free. But yeah, it seems like it's a little tough right now for school programs, especially for things that oh my God, no, I'm not old enough to call them kids. Oh, it's terrible. So the interns are messed up, holster guns, and use drugs. Oh my God. Yeah. That's funny. Warren does the same thing too, where he calls someone that's in like their mid-30s kids. I guess it's just like the age difference, but there's not much of an age difference between me and these guys and girls, because they're like early 20s and I guess I'm late 20s. I'm 27. Time is going by fast. No. Yeah, we should tell them to all join the academy. Join us. Oh my God. You're saying future babies say their first words, it will be texted on mobile. Oh yeah, what's the connection? That's right, the joke. There is a joke here. How are trumpets like pirates? Well, they both murder then in the high seas. Ba-doom. I don't know if that's true with trumpets, but I like it. Chris, I like that. What does Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? Same middle name. Yes, Ken. Tell everyone. We must get all the youngins to join the academy. Pave the future of the way of music. How do you keep your guitar from being stolen? Put it in a tuba case? Oh, wow, it's Friday the 13th. That's right. Everyone watch out for black cats, broken mirrors, walking under ladders, opening umbrellas inside. What else is there? The LA Comedy School. We should definitely have just like a little side like side gig of comedy, telling jokes, dad jokes specifically. Why shouldn't you brush your teeth with your left hand? Uh-oh, I'm left-handed. I brush my teeth with my left hand. Curious to the answer of that one. Come over to the dark side. We're the dark side. I'm cool with that. Oh, a toothbrush works much better. I get it. No masks needed here. We've all got our jab. I think we're all comfy enough. And we just really don't do much besides work and go home. Especially right now. Things are closing back up around here too. Or at least like outside, being able to eat inside has I've seen a lot of places close down their indoor dining. So it's getting back to being very cautious. Why doesn't the queen wave with this hand? Because it is mine. If you are a member of the Templar Knights, nice. It's funny seeing the with the interns, how timid they are their first days.
Uh-oh.
Did you go?
Said plausible deniability.
Did you go and intimidate the new interns?
She wasn't there. She's on the run.
Oh, she's on a food run.
Yeah, you sent her.
That's right, I did.
Hey, look at this. So two things. Got a bunch of gold and platinum records came through, which is nice. This one's for the single Over My Head. So that was fun. Which country is this? This is RIAA. I thought we were getting one for England. Yeah, but there's the Matis Yahoo one as well. But we'll probably put these in the other studio. Oh, when are we going to figure out getting the singles up?
Yeah, I want to do that today. It's singles you want in here, right? Because they're
Yeah, because
smaller.
there's not much room else.
Right.
Yeah, get some of the singles up. And then we can put the albums, especially seeing I think one of them's a double, isn't it? There. Those two.
And then there's another single down there.
Oh, there is?
On the app.
Yeah. That'd be good. Anyway, what was your joke? Was it funny?
Oh, what was my joke?
He doesn't even remember what his joke was.
How are trumpets like pirates?
How are trumpets like pirates? Because they blow their own horn. Because they horn. Something about horn. Horn. Is it horn?
They both murder in the high seas.
Both murder in the high seas. Oh. They're on air decorating the studio. Congratulations. Yeah, do it, Russell. Just do it with bands like get the Ukraine or get some countries that nobody has any friends in. Malaysia, like put up gold in Malaysia and put your band name up there. The pirate joke was murder. I have been to people's houses where they have gold and platinum records of albums that I worked on, and I'm like, what it is they were an assistant to the A&R guy or something, or they worked at the label, and we never dealt with them, talked to them, or anything. The artist doesn't know who they are, but labels would award. Anybody around, oh, you answered the phone when we made that Frey record. Here, have a platinum record. Meanwhile, I was 9 months on that second album. 9 months of work to get that second album done. Yeah. All right. God bless it. Let's get back to The Wonderful World. So did we get that figured out? So now we have Roy Burbeck up.
Yep.
Okay, and did you get hold of the person whose one wasn't playing back properly?
I sent them a message. Yeah.
And are they here? Did they see it?
I don't know if they're here, but I also said it. I haven't seen a message from, but I said it.
Okay. So everybody, I want to let you know that there is a new course that came out today, which I am extremely proud of. And it is with Billy Decker. And it's 3 songs. What is it? It's country, pop, and rock. 3 different genres using a mixing template. And the list price on it is, well, the list price is $127, but we're selling it at $57. But if you are an Academy member, you put in PLAPA 25, PLAPA 25, and you then get another 25% on it. So it's like $40. So for $40, you get 3 sets of multi-tracks, 3 videos teaching you how to mix with templates. It's probably one of the best deals we've done, and he just posted the course link before I did. Woo! Yeah. Fancy pants beat me. So go buy it. It's like $40. I can't do the 25%. Half is 20. What is it? Yeah, it's about $42 or something like that with the discount. Chetty says, why did the skeleton want to go to the Friday the 13th dance party? He had nobody to go with. Nobody to go with. So go and get that course. Here it is again. It's a lot of bang for the buck. Go get it. It's really good. And Billy Decker's a fantastic teacher. When Sam watched it, he said thought it was one of the best courses. Go get it. See, Ron's getting it. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to gratify that answer. Jens. Okay. Bada boom. Oh, righty. Next up is Roy, and Roy says, "Hi Warren, it's my version of Lonely One." Oh, nice, the Chase song. Who I was just talking to yesterday. I love it that we have this. All of these people that we're involved with, we're all just still friends and we hang out and do work together. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I love our community. Go buy that course. Not kidding. It's freaking awesome. It's all about template mixing. Use the same template on all 3 songs, and all 3 songs are different, and all 3 songs sound great. This is my version of Lonely One. I had a good time with this one. I tried something a little different. I used the AMEC 1999 Neve channel strip on every track. Interesting. Good. Bus and main outs. So you went for the full-blown console experience, mixer experience. For compression, I used the Slate VBC FG Red, Townhouse, and the main output Shadow Hills Class A mastering. Limited effects, Eventide reverbs, and BX 2500. I'm mastering Ozone Pro. Special thanks to my new friends Chris Ibbotson, Chris Kersey, Bruce, Frank Stahl, Kevin, Alex, Lucas, and Steve for lending an ear and the great tips. Love being a member of this great family of talented musicians, mixers, and producers. I'm a drummer, so apologies up front for the drum sound. Might be a little hot. Ha-ha! Feedback is appreciated and welcome. Hope you enjoy. Lovely. Let's check it out. Chase's Lonely One.
Guess the party's over. The drinks are gone. We're hungover. It doesn't seem as fun now. A little sadder, a little lonely. So this is getting older. I don't wanna be the lonely one. I don't wanna be the lonely one.
deep end, trying to find another, shrugging shoulders, trading numbers. So this year's getting older, each year a little colder. I don't wanna be the lonely one. I don't wanna be the lonely one. Ooh. I don't wanna be the lonely one. So this is getting older, each year a little colder, more weight upon my shoulders. I don't wanna be a lonely one. I don't wanna be the lonely one.
I always like Chase's songwriting. It's thanks for resurrecting this one because we had this one recently. Not sure, but yeah, I'm a big fan of his songwriting. He's a great pop songwriter. I love that drum fill. A huge impact. So what Roy's done here, I'm going to turn it up a little bit because my voice is loud. Has that kick always been missing? That feels weird, doesn't it? It feels like down, down, I mean, if it's missing, it's missing. I don't remember it being missing, but it could be. I would fly that in first thing, Roy, especially as your drummer. I do like Roy is. I like the snap on the snare. He's letting the attack be a little slower, so it allows a bit more snappy transient. So you really hear it on this fill. And then listen when the band comes in. Listen to the way the snare's like stop, stop, stop. Can't listen past. Probably none of you now are going to be able to listen past the fact that there's a kick missing. Spank is a Bob Clearmountain term, what I think is probably the first like famous SSL mixer. But yeah, everybody on SSLs calls it Spank, but we all get it from Bob. But then probably like Hugh Padgham and Lily White, they were the first people to use SSLs, but I don't know. I have to ask Hugh if he ever said it, but yeah, I definitely know it as a Bob Clearmountain term from the early 80s. So I think my only real thing, Roy, and it's interesting because some weeks this conversation I'm about to have is actually the main focus on so many of the songs. And I'm sure those of you that are old timers here will know what I mean. The low end on the kick is a little hit and miss. When the bass is playing along it perfectly, it feels like there's just about enough low end, but it needs a little bit more subbiness on that kick.
Fun is over, the drinks are gone, and we're hungover. It doesn't seem.
So see if you can just dial in, 60 and 50 for some people, 60 for others, 70 for others. But, usually about 60 is what you're usually feeling like the bass drum, the kick drum needs to sort of live in. And when you're boosting that 60 area, obviously you've got the 80 to 100 here, which you don't want to bring up too much because you're going to smother the low end of the bass guitar. But at the same time, you don't want to get too much 20 because it can get kind of subby and take up too much energy in your master bus, meaning you can't get your mix loud enough because this kind of warbling 20 hertz. But you definitely want 40 in there as well. And, when I use the subharmonic synthesizer, it's actually set to 36, so close to 40, and it's just adding a little bit more on there. So a little bit more weight on that kick there, just for me. And just be careful that the bass isn't smothering that area. So you might want to high pass slightly more aggressively on the kick drum. But first of all, add a bit more weight on the kick before you do anything to the bass. It's like we were talking about earlier. You don't want to be boosting things that you're then going to have to cut somewhere else, and you're not going to want to cut things that you have to. You need to be sort of thinking, okay, what's the worst thing to solve first? What's the most important thing to solve first? And for me, it's getting like good, consistent low end on the kick, then seeing what the bass does. You're probably going to want to increase your high pass ever so slightly, but let's get the kick drum first.
Fun is over, the drinks are gone, and we're hungover. It doesn't seem as fun now, a little sadder, a little lonely. So this is getting older. I don't wanna be the lonely one. I don't wanna be the lonely one. Ooh. Yeah, I don't wanna be the lonely one.
No, Chris, I don't think you were wrong if there was some 25 to 30 in there. I just think it's a little inconsistent, you know what I mean? The DBX 127 harmonic synthesizers are not cheap these days, really? Did we push the price up? We got to stop talking about this stuff on YouTube and just save it for Academy. Well, I mean, that's not bad. That one's going for 175. And the 500 series Sweetwater sells the 500 series ones new for 175. So if you've got a 500 series rack, I mean, it doesn't look like they're going to get much more expensive than that. You know what I mean? Yeah, $175. I mean, that's not free, don't get me wrong, but it's not like when you said they were getting expensive, I thought maybe they were getting to like $600 or $700. Looks like there's somebody called Blue Lantern that makes one. But a 160, a 120A, yeah, it looks like they're going for 175. Nobody's going to try and sell them for more than that because then you just buy the 500 series, wouldn't you? So, yeah, I mean, I think we paid like 100 or 120 a couple of years ago. Something like that, wasn't it? And we got it from Westlake. But so it looks like they've gone up a bit because now there's lots of us talking about it. But I don't think that's too bad. I would still... Oh, somebody here is trying to sell one for $300. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's silly. Yeah, on Reverb, $300. And it's one of the old school looking ones, but to be honest, the interior is the same. I've asked DBX, it's the same thing. you know, but here's another one like the one I've got. There's $175, 120A. So, you know, and if you've got a 500 series rack, just use that. I think $175 is easily worth it. Once you've done 2 or 3 mixes that are paid, you'll be like, yep, that works. All right. So I think, Chris, getting back to what you were talking about, no, I think it's close. I don't want to exaggerate. It might be a case of just high-passing the bass slightly more, putting that tiny amount of subbiness onto the kick, and then maybe adding a little bit more compression. Not even maybe an L1, something limiting it, just something that makes it feel a little bit more even, so it's just delivering. The thing about the subharmonic synthesizer is you could set it up so it's just doing every single time. I did actually, a couple of years ago, we gave away a sample. I don't know where it is, top of my head. You know, and of just that and you could print it as well. You could print something in that frequency response between like 35 and 50 or something, just like a and lay it against there if you want to trigger something as well, you know?
Party's over, the drinks are gone, we're hungover.
Do I think the new ones are going to be as good? Oh, yeah. Because the one that everybody used in the 70s was the Disco Boombox. And when I asked DBX about it, they're like, it's the same technology. It's also like with the DBX VUs. I love them, but the VCAs and everything, they carried on using them in later products, but people still swear by the original 160s, you know, and I get it. You know, it's in a bigger box and it looks prettier. So we have to be careful sometimes, you know what I mean? Oh, wow. Dan B said he got a 160 for $50 at a garage sale. Wow. What plugin? Isn't there a BX free plugin that does it? Didn't we hear that? Somebody said there's a Brainworks one. Can anybody remember there's one that that does the same thing? But I certainly would not have a problem using a 500 series one. You know, with the new room we're building, we're going to put the Cranbourne in there, and maybe we'll have that. I can't get over past that part where the kick drum's missing.
Guess the party's over, the drinks are gone, we're hungover.
It's just uneven. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's more about an evenness. Sometimes the low end is absolutely beautiful, and then other times it just disappears.
We're hungover. It doesn't seem as fun now. A little
It's gorgeous there where we stopped, and then other times it's just a little tiny bit of more control. And it could be, like I said, it could be like a little bit of limiting. And I'm not talking about like square waving it. Maybe it just needs to be a little bit more even. Yeah, Roy, if you've got a Paul, if you've got a 500 series one, I'd buy one of those for one. Yeah, consistency, says Chris. That's all it is. It just needs that, because when it hits, which is about 75% of the time, it's gorgeous. But then when it's not there, it's disappointing and it feels like there's a hole in it. So Delvin says that it's the BX subharmonic synth, and that's an emulation of a DBX 120. So that seems like a way to go, you know?
we're hungover. It doesn't seem as fun now. A little sadder, a little lonely. So
The R-bass can. I'm a little afraid of the R-bass on when I've got multiple signals, because it does shift the phase. It doesn't matter to me if it's on the end of a bust, multiple elements of a bass guitar. That's fine. or it's on a bass guitar where I've separated the low end from the mid-range and the highs, I can do stuff, and I don't really care if a relationship in phase moves slightly, because it doesn't matter, because the other half of the split on the bass doesn't have any low end in. So you can move the shift, a few degrees out, and who cares, because there's nothing rubbing against it. But with kick drums and stuff like that, when you've got overheads and all this stuff, our bass can be a little wacky. I know Sheps puts it on, but it does sometimes. It does sort of shift the phase a little bit. We put our bass on. The thing about the 120 is it seems to add low lows, and being entirely analog doesn't mess with the phase at all. It always comes back spot on and just really low and powerful. What's interesting is this isn't a major problem. It's very subtle, and that shows you how good the mix is.
So this is getting older.
You could argue the clickiness on the kick is maybe just a little bit too much. I mean, but one of the things that's nice is and this is a stylistic thing, is that the snap on the snare and the snap on the kick is in a fairly similar area, so it keeps the movement snappy. Typically on a kick drum that isn't metal, I'm more at about 2.5 rather than 7K, where 7K and above is normally what I want a snare, when I want the high kind of like snap of that. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen the other. But in this instance, maybe once the low end is more consistent on the bass drum, the kick drum, I might take a little bit of that snappiness off, just a bit. Just because it does sound a little modern rock for me. But again, very, very opinionated. You don't have to agree with that. So getting on those toms and pull out some low mids in that 350, 400. Just on those tom fills, it's a little cardboardy. It's got a little doo-doo-doo. I'm not in love with the distorted right-hand guitar. It's an interesting one. I mean, again, production-wise, it just sort of feels kind of what's the word? Arbitrary. It's just kind of and it sort of takes up a lot of energy, which could be cool. You could consider that cool, like, yeah, it's making it rock a little bit. But there's a lot of beautiful little parts in here that are maybe getting lost with this right-hand distorted guitar. I mean, I wish it was more like... I don't know, can we key this in? F sharp. If it was more, but at the moment it kind of sounds like sort of open strings, not staccato, not precise rhythmically, and a little sloppy. I don't know if I'm digging it. So maybe try it out first of all, or try getting in there and sort of narrowing it, maybe so it's just more like, you know, so it's a bit more of like a mid-range, kind of almost, you know, foghorny kind of area. Just a little bit out of the way, because some of those high mids are just a little bit sloppy, you know?
So this is getting older. Each year a little colder. More
Yeah, I don't remember it having that much drive on it, but maybe I'm wrong. If it has additional drive, maybe back it down a little bit. If there's a DI in there, maybe take the DI. I don't remember on these multi-tracks if there was. And just get a little bit less drive. So it's just a bit more funky and a little less kind of loose rock, you know?
So this is getting older. Each year a little colder. More weight upon my shoulders.
Interesting. The toms in that area sound so much better than they do earlier on here.
I don't wanna be the lonely one. I don't wanna be the lonely one. Ooh.
Yeah, so maybe just pinpointing areas. So this is another discussion to have. We talked about earlier, listening to some of the early mixes, talking about, you know, boosting certain frequencies so the instrument appears louder without actually turning that thing up, because you might be also turning up frequencies that you don't want to hear. You might be increasing low mids on guitars when really you're just trying to get the guitars to be exciting, for instance. We talked about that stuff. In this instance, it might just be that when you've got a really thick area where you've got that big, thick kind of distorted guitar maybe going and everybody's going for it in the choruses, that the toms get a lot of the low end gets sucked up in it, and the low mids are starting to feature more. So it might just be, Roy, that you have to like pinpoint EQ in a certain area, you know what I mean? Because when it's open here, it's great.
More weight upon my shoulders. I don't want
Love the tom sound there, absolutely superb. But earlier it sounded a little bit cardboardy, you know, just when the full band is going in the chorus. So maybe, Roy, just get in there and either spot EQ it, you can audio suite it and go in there onto those ones and remove additional amounts of low mids, or run an automation on them, whatever you want to do. Back in ye olden days, we would mult channels, you know, and we'd have like a vocal, in this instance a tom or something, anything that needed addition on the console, you would just have it be on another channel and you'd EQ it differently. You know, we do that with vocals. You know, you'd have a verse vocal, a chorus vocal, sometimes even a bridge vocal, whatever, and you do different EQ points for different sections of the song. So, yeah, it's probably one of those instances where it sounds great in the open, but in a dense mix, the low mids start to feel a little stodgy and thick. It's a really great mix, and all of these things we're talking about, you know, just for perspective, everybody, are very subtle, because ultimately this is a really superb mix. Yeah, great work. Really great work, Roy. I appreciate it. And thanks for thanks for taking all the time to do this, and thanks Chris and everybody that was helping him with it. This is what makes this community absolutely unique, that we all get in here and help each other, and especially all of you, and the fact that you all take the time, sometimes days, to do this, hours of work, and then put yourself out there and let other people comment on it and get stuck in, because that's how we all learn. Great work. All right. Next up is Kyle, and Kyle says, my final mix, lots of comments, lots of tweaks. Excellent. Oh, I've got to be next door at 1:30. I didn't realize what time it was. It's 1:12, 1:18. Here we go.
Other girls may take your shit, I ain't gonna deal with it. They might let you call the shots, but with me, you're not. You know I don't fall for your games. Keep it a boy, watch me walk away. If you want to call yourself mine,
Wow, Kyle, absolutely love this. What's interesting is like I've always loved this song. You know, really, really wonderful artist. Quite successful. You know, she was on a big Disney TV show and been in a couple of movies and all this kind of stuff, and really wonderful to work with. Her and her mother would come over, and because we first started working when she was like 15, 16. I think she's like 21 now. We did a few songs with her, and I always loved the song. But this is one of those instances. If you'd said to me, you know, take Warren's funky guitar and put distortion on it, like rock distortion, I'd have been like, no, that's a crazy idea. What are you talking about? But this sounds so good. I want to play it again. And that sustain on the kick. Boom, 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 that electronic.
Other girls may take your shit, I ain't gonna deal with it. They might let you call the shots, but with me, you're not. You know I don't fall for your games. Keep it a boy, watch me walk away. If you want to call yourself mine, be a man and just treat me right. Make up your mind, don't waste my time. Be a man and just treat me right.
When that comes in with that distortion, it sounds like Prince or something, because, which is obviously a huge influence, because it feels like that angular rock version of funk, you know? And I like the irreverence of it. Oh, it's so good. It's somebody's saying, you know, the subbiness on the kick maybe could come down. I think I like it in the verse, and I get it. I think that's a valid point, but I think I really like it. Kyle. Is Kyle here? This is a really, really good mix. This is like a mix / remix. It's because it's, even though there's not really any additions of stuff, it's just such a twist on it. It's really taking it to the next level. It's a very kind of Spike Stent way of doing things, like just screwing it up, for want of a better, messing it up. Just Spike does this stuff where he just distorts things. It's so good. Okay, I have one and only one thing to say. Apart from, no, I have two things to say. It sounds fantastic. But number two, I think the snare needs to be less just pip, pip. It needs a bit more body. I think this was going to be, you know, competing with, you know, you know, great dance tracks of a modern era. It needs more. We need more snare. Not necessarily volume, we just need a bigger sounding snare, like more body, just like, here's the snare. It's a little like pap, pap at the moment. I want it to be like, whoosh, you know, like I want a snare in there. So like when you're on the dance floor, you can feel it. I just want more snare. That's it. Not volume, just body. At the moment, all I'm hearing is like a snappiness. Yeah, Raul's saying bites. Yeah, it just needs like you know, like it just needs to be like a bigger sounding snare. Don't mess with anything else. Just give me more snare. Go back and listen to, you know, Bruno Mars and stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, obviously there's some of his stuff which is using a clap, but go back and listen to like big dance tracks and realize that, you know, if you're in a club and this was coming on, you would just want more of that. That's it. It's the only thing I think I would change. Oh, only other, well, again, one more thing. Don't fade out. Give me more of the song. Or make the fade go more More gently into the night, as Dylan Thomas might say. Wow. So good. So good. Kyle. Bravo. All right, we're going to listen to one more of Andy Tullis, and then I will give you over to Eric for a few minutes because I have to go and run and do something. But I want to listen to the last two because I know there's probably so many of you sitting here, the last two people going, oh my God, I'm coming up. And the last thing you want is for me to go, oh, I've got to finish. I just didn't realize the time. This is what happens. We get into great depth and we talk about things and we have fun. And then you get the 10-minute of Eric telling allegedly a joke. I'm just teasing.
Amazing jokes.
An amazing joke. Life-changing joke. Okay. So Andy, you know what? Let's come back and do the 3 because I'm going to rush it otherwise. I'm just seeing I've only got 3 minutes and that wouldn't be fair. So I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Mr. Eric Gonzalez for a few minutes because I have to run next door and do something quickly. And then we'll come back and listen to the last 3. So feel free to ask him anything. Just don't ask him to tell a joke. No, I'm joking.
That's the only reason I'm here for.
What? What? All right, cool. I'll be back in a minute.
I'll be here. Ooh, 1 sec. I need to grab something I need. Ta-da! Something I need big time because I am slipping away sitting back there. And I can feel my eyes getting heavy. Even my voice is starting to just kind of like the...
My phone,
Yes, right here.
just in case.
So, how's it going? How is everyone? The world of the Erics. Order food? Oh, but food puts me even in a more... Maybe I'm ordering the wrong food. Like, food comas are terrible. I am not a fan. That's typically when I need the energy drink the most. Product placement, not sponsored. Yeah, this or coffee. But coffee gets me all like, I start to get anxious, like anxiety off of coffee. Here, I'm going to put the, I am going to do this. So I'm not looking down. I can look kind of like at you guys more. Because this will probably be a good 10 minutes. And this is what you see when you're not signed into YouTube. The things that it just throws at you. Oh, I may have to sign in because this is a special link. We are unlisted, huh? I'll have to verify. Gonna have to go through a whole process. Never mind. Too much work. I give up. Have I begun on my metal mixes yet? No, I haven't. You know what? I've been wanting to how do you guys get yourself out there to get projects? I've been wanting to, eventually, well, not eventually, anytime I can do it. I just need to do it. But just, get myself out there being like, hey, let me mix your stuff. Let me do this. I mean, I guess from all the stories I hear that Warren talks about and all the lessons that we're filming, he's just saying, put yourself out there, right? Just email people and just let them know you'd work on maybe a track for free. And if they like it, if they love it, then go from there. That's what I kind of got off of those videos. So I need to probably do that. I have done it a few times when I reach out, like I find someone's Instagram or if I hear their music and I just send them a message on Instagram and I don't get a reply, but I don't blame it because probably the people I'm reaching out to are not necessarily like bands that the people I'm reaching out to are they're not like the most successful people, but people that like my friends and cousins, like they tell me like, oh, check this person out, and they already have success. They have a following, so they don't technically need to reply to me at all. Maybe I need to reach a little more to the beginner bands. Build it and they will come. That's another thing I need to do. Build a page, a website. Get myself a website. Yeah. Because don't get me wrong, I will not say no to working on albums that Warren works on. Definitely won't say no to any of that. But I also would like to just be able to pull my own weight and get started on just that aspect of business. Yeah, so reach out to singer-songwriters who post on SoundCloud. I've never thought of using SoundCloud as a finding people on SoundCloud. Give them feedback in the comments. If they respond, maybe that's a good idea. Go to gigs. That's definitely the main thing. It's just like I don't have time. Because it's like to going around to the gigs and local clubs, and I would love to do that. It's just hard finding the time to after work, after here, to go and to be able to catch the bands, especially the earlier bands, right? You want to get the openers because the guys that are headlining, those are usually guys that, and I would even try for them too. Why not? But yeah, word of mouth goes much further these days. Build a web page, look for local bands. Yeah. And I don't even know if I would even try. I mean, recording, I do love recording, but I think I'm starting to think like, you know what? I prefer just the mixing aspect of it more than the recording. But also, it's just been a while since we've done like a full-on recording project. So I'm a little rusty in just like the way it was recording in general. The first one is always free, right? Doing traveling around the world, I would love to. Oh no, I'm not leaving Spitfire, Warren. No, this is like because I have Sundays. Warren gives me Sundays. If I want to do my own projects, I can work on my own stuff on Sundays. But I just don't have my own projects. And it would be a little tough just because Sunday being the day off. It's like that's the day where I do kind of like a lot of like chores and stuff that I need to get done. But Carl, I see your message, Carl. No one else does, just because there's the F-bomb in there. It's just censored. But yeah. If you don't have time to go out to see young bands, you won't have time for them in their eyes anyway. That's true. That is very true. Just a thought. Just because sometimes, you know how when you get all pumped up, you listen to some music, and you're like, oh, this is so good. Like, who are these people? I want to work with them. I want to reach out to them. And then, yeah. And also, I'm curious of working in different genres that Warren doesn't necessarily work with, like rap and hip hop. I'm cool with trying out some of that stuff. EDM stuff, I feel like when they're building their tracks, the EDM tracks, I feel like they're mixing it themselves, basically. I don't really hear much of EDM guys sending their stuff out to be mixed. Because I guess they're building it, they're mixing it as they build it, right? Oh, thank you, Ron. I know, that's the thing. I could totally take advantage of all this and like what Warren's taught me, and just that's also another thing. Like take advantage of all this and just kind of, you know, do the best I can and see where it goes. I do need to carry some business cards. I think I have some that are produced like a pro. I think so. From when we go to NAMM, we never really need it, but yeah, I do. It says produce like a pro, my name, chief engineer, director of videography, which is fancy. My email, my number. Just mentioned the Genelex. Yeah, Sheila, like I just I want to also like, branch out to all the different genres. That is true. I hear a lot about, and they were talking about it with Andrew Wells yesterday. Because Andrew Wells. We went to his studio yesterday and did a little tour, and Warren posted on his Instagram like his studio house. But yeah, he works on so many different genres, and he's saying like how nice it is to work on so many different genres. So it's kind of like a 50-50 thing of like being the guy for something specific or being a guy that's known to just be able to just work on. But he is very, very talented. Like he deserves to be in a spot that he can just get all the different genres. Not that people who work on one specific thing aren't talented enough for that, but it's just, NAMM, will it happen? So far it seems like NAMM is still happening. Winter NAMM. Summer NAMM technically already happened, and they did do Summer NAMM in Nashville. But I hear that wasn't much of anyone there. So I haven't heard any cancellations about Winter NAMM yet. This is true, Paul. This is true. But will Warren ever retire? I don't think so. The guy loves to work. He lives to work. And works to live. Yeah, I am a metal guy. I started in metal. I've never worked in metal though. Which is very interesting. And like from everything I've learned from like Warren, I don't know if that would translate to the metal mixes, right? Because I mean, I know that kicks are going to be EQ'd differently. Guitars you want to treat differently, especially with all that distortion. Even the miking of the drums. You have direct mics on all the cymbals, and you're not just relying on the overheads. So I haven't worked on metal. There was one band that was kind of like I think it was like a favor thing, but we were trying to see what was gonna go, like where it was gonna go, and it just kind of like fell out. I think the band was having issues, and then it just kind of like fell apart. But that was like the closest we got to metal, and it was really cool. It was kind of like it was like a 90s metal thing. I'm trying to think of a band to compare it to, but I just can't think of it right now. But that was fun. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fun. And then there's Glenn that I can, ask a lot of questions and start watching his stuff more. Nice. Beatles Fest all outside. Oh yeah, Christian Cola. I want to be able to meet him, hang out with the guy. He seems super cool. Yeah, kicks are EQ differently on all genres. I think so. Had to go live in the woods after NAMM. Wow, the inventor of the throat lozenge died last month. There was no coffin at his funeral. Oh, it was a joke. At least I hope it was a joke. Because that guy, I was like, oh, whoa. I read that first thinking like it's like an actual fact. I was like, oh man. Because you don't really hear about those inventors that just go. You just don't really hear about it. Chris, you can get an internship. When my time comes up for the 10 minutes to come up here, that's your time. That's your internship starts. Your day starts. And then when I go sit down, then that's, day break. We could do that. Christian is cool. It's funny how like throughout the whole episode, you guys just throw out jokes, and that's just kind of become our thing here. Who would have thunk we'd all become great joke tellers? How much producing and mixing are we doing these days? We are finally getting a lot of bookings. We're supposed to do something with Mark Martel for a couple of days, and then singer-songwriters coming in afterwards. I don't know the dates. I just know that this is all like just around the corner. And then Warren said we're talking to a band. I don't know what kind of a band. If it's like a proper, 5-member or 4-member up band, or like, singer-songwriter that's going to bring in studio musicians or something like that. But we are getting back into that because other than that, I mean, throughout the pandemic, we weren't doing too much, no recording. Recording gigs, we pushed those. Some mixing. Just Chloe is who we were focused with. The production on all that stuff. Yeah, Ken. Here for the hang. I'm doing my best to kill the time while Warren's next door. Nice. Going to see Jason Mraz tomorrow, huh? I would like to see that guy. I potentially might go to a show tonight. Potentially. So that'll be fun. I haven't been to a show since before. Way before the lockdown. Because I kind of took shows for granted. I mean, not only did I not have the time for them, but when I did, I just wanted to just go and be a couch potato. I don't know if any of you guys get that, where you just, after work, you just want to just couch potato it and not do anything and just watch TV and eat junk food and just not think at all. But I'm kind of like, all right, I need some life. I need to go out. What's red and bad for your teeth? A brick. Oh, yeah. Oh, I would love to see Chris Stapleton. I just got into country, like listening to more country, and Chris Stapleton. Cause I don't know why. I just never really listened to the country music and just don't have a starting point. Don't know where to start. And I know there's a difference between, the very pop country and then bro country and then classic country. And all, like, I don't even know where to start. And I guess pop country might as well just be pop. And it's just a country artist doing pop. But Chris Stapleton, I checked out his stuff, and I am a fan. So good. And it's not like I dislike country. I just don't know where to start. So if you guys have any recommendations, throw the names out there. Foo Fighters. I need to see them because they are getting older, and I just don't want to wait too long to where they just kind of like decide, you know what, like this is it. Especially when Dave Grohl is just like, all right, like I'm chilling and just gonna, yeah, I don't want to miss that. Oh, I believe that, Sheila. Chris has an awesome voice. His music's just so good. What do I need to make the jump so you can hear what I do? As far as like music itself, like music writing, I just need to get back into it in general. And then the mixing side of it, well, I just haven't. I just need to do that too. Find some work to do. Although I guess all the stuff that we come out with here, I mean, I'm helping a lot with it. No reggae on the Foo Fighters. No ragging on the Foo Fighters. I love them. They are one of the first, I'd say one of the first rock bands that just kind of like stuck with me, because when I was little and had no idea what music was, just that it was playing, music was just playing. Like little, as in like I was in the car seat in the back while my mom's driving, and she would just put on K-Rock. And so, yeah, during that time, because, you know, I was born in 94. So some point when I started to realize what music was, or that music, or like melody, or I guess, Foo Fighters at that time was out. And so I would hear a lot of them. And it's awesome hearing the stories that Daryl Thorpe tells us of Dave Grohl, that he is a genuine, awesome, freaking person, which is not surprising, but, you know, you never want to hear about your heroes that are awesome on camera and terrible off camera. Symmetry, you were born in 49. Ken, you're 20 and 94. Yep, I am still a wee lad, I think. I think. Her, the R&B and hip hop artist, Her, Her. I'll check that out. What instruments do I play besides the guitar? I dabble with piano. I got to keep one of the stand-up pianos, or upright stand-up pianos. One of the upright pianos from Warren's old studio, Harmony. No one was going to take it, and they were going to just dump it because it's just, you know, it's just a piano thing. And, well, not that it's just a piano thing, but I just don't know if they used it. They had the Yamaha, the one that Adele did Someone Like You on, and everyone just wanted to do all the piano on that, not the upright. That was like just a student upright. So I freaking took it. Called my dad because he had a truck, and he drove down, and we just loaded it up, and I took it. So a stand-up piano is a piano that tells jokes. What is the piano coming into the studio? I don't know what the piano is, and it might even be here already. But I would like to play it. I wonder if we're gonna swap it out with this one in here, which would be kind of sad because this one has such a personality. I mean, you guys hear it in the multi-tracks that we give out. Yeah, the freaking pianos are insanely heavy. I mean, like, I'm not surprised, but oh my God, I tried helping my dad, and I felt like I did absolutely nothing to help him. I don't think I've ever lifted anything that heavy before. And it's just like all wood. Yeah, Jörg. I do need to take the time, and there are like the Whiskey's right here, the Roxy's right here. I think they're open now. I just need to go and just watch and listen, and then confront the bands. Go up to them, give them my card, and tell them, hey, I've got this sweet little studio over here that I can use. Hello.
Sorry about that.
And there is the call with Doug Rogers at 2.
Okay.
I can let them know it'll be like maybe 5 minutes more.
Yeah, just tell them we're going to be 5 minutes late. Okay. God bless it. Did you tell any funny jokes?
I didn't, but we were just having, chat time.
We're going for a marathon session today.
Yeah.
All right. Andy, tell us. Let's get straight into it. My mix of what's going on. Always love songs performed by Warren, Steve, and Blair. Well, thank you. By Steve, Blair, and Warren. Let's do it in that order. They used the Lewitt LCT 140 Air. Yeah, it was pretty crazy using that on the vocal, wasn't it? And I started thinking about these like $100 or less microphones. Isn't a pair of those like less than $200? Stupidly cheap. Anyway, and it really just proves a great singer makes any mic sound good. With the help from other members' feedback, I think I got a pretty solid mix. If it's not solid, it's not the Academy members' fault, it's mine. Insert smiling face here. I did my best attempt at mastering here as well. Look forward to feedback. Great. Okay, here we go. Here is the wonderful Andy Tullis.
Sitting there with your arms crossed, I know you're wondering. It's hard to tell if our love's gone. You got me wondering too. 'Cause every time I try to talk, but you don't wanna listen. No. You can't expect me, baby, to know what's going on, to keep holding on to you. So baby, won't you tell me what's going on with you? Baby, tell me what's going on with you? We've been right for a while now. It's a crying shame, a crying shame. And are we just two more heartbreak players in another losing game? Oh, 'cause every time I try to talk, you don't wanna listen, no. You can't expect me, baby, to know what's going on, to keep holding on to you. So baby, won't you tell me what's going on with you? Baby, tell me what's going on with you? Oh, baby, tell me what's going on? Baby, tell me what's going on with you? I gotta know what's going on. Baby, won't you take me?
Wow. It's a great mix. It's very what's interesting is it's not like bright all over. But it's definitely got some like super snappiness to it. If we listen back to the top.
Sitting there,
So when the sorry, I'm thinking here.
wondering. It's hard to
Piano sounds great. I would love to hear a little bit more low-lows on the kick and a little less kind of just knockiness to it, just a bit.
wondering. It's hard to tell if I
It's a little bit 60 on a Pultec.
'cause every time I try to talk,
I know, how many mics is this? 1 or 2? I don't remember. It's a limited amount of mics, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those. I'll get you the answer.
I can't remember, but it's not as many mics. So bit of 60 on a Pultec, bit of snap for the snare. It's a bit, somebody initially said like it sounded a bit narrow or a bit mid-rangey. I do agree. It needs a bit more boom and fizz in general, a bit more low-lows, a bit more, you know, kind of pizzazz, particularly on the drums.
4 mics.
4 mics. Okay, so 4 mics should be enough. You can get in on that kick and add some Pultec. You can add some, you know, some 7K, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the snare, so it's a little less boxy, I think is the word I heard somebody use.
you can't.
But I generally like the vocal sound. Generally like the acoustic, like the piano. The bass is kind of cool. I think it's about the drums. You need to get some more boom on the kick, a little bit more brightness on the snare, and that's 7, 8, 9, 10. But then the thing is, the vocal gets shrill. It is a small diaphragm mic. It is bright. Get in there and control it. It's like moments it just kind of gets yeah, and it gets.
You can't expect me, baby.
I don't mind it there. It's a little bit shrill, but it's okay.
What's going on with you? Oh, baby, tell me, yeah, what's going on? Baby, tell me, what's going on with you?
And selfishly, I think the solo could come up a dB. I think it could just sit a little bit more in top. I was definitely channeling my kind of inner Elliot Randall in there. I was thinking more about like, what would Elliot do on a solo? He would like pick a theme, you know, because he was like, obviously I'm no Elliot Randall. There's only one Elliot Randall, but you know, he had this kind of feel. So I was like going go 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 go, and I kept that going. So I pushed that a little bit up on there, but I think I think I would definitely the multi-Eric videographer, engineer, mixer, studio manager. Look at that. King John Oil, young impersonator. You know, what else can we get in there? It's really good. Give us some more boom on that kick. Give us some more brightness on that snare, Andy. And see if you can control some of the harshness when Steve's going for it. Otherwise, pretty darn good. Pretty good. All right, Stephen Korst is next. Did you tell Doug we're running late?
Yes.
Got to talk to the owner of East West. Is he okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And Stephen says, hello, everyone. As always, any comments, feedback is most welcome and greatly appreciated. Hope you're doing well. Okay, Stephen always does wonderful work. So we have high expectations of the genius of Steve. Here we go.
Soon as your whiskey touched my lips, you set a fire to my song, and I'm gonna take it down to heaven. We push and pull and won't let go. It's a never-ending merry come and go round once more. And oh, you're so insane. comfortable. So take me down again. Moaning, screaming, don't pretend. Wanna hear my name, with gritted teeth and a heavy breath. Just lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do. And we'll dance along the satin till the morning. Heaven knows you're what I need, and I can only hope that what you see is you and me, and never letting go. I'm gonna tear you down so hard, you're gonna be calling out for God, and He's gonna let you know He's looking down and just keep going. So take me down again. Moaning, screaming, don't pretend. Wanna hear my name, your gritted teeth and the heavy breath. Just lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do. And we'll dance along the satin till the morning. Yeah. Dressed but in shadow, you advance across a room of failed addiction, and you got me jonesing harder now. So take me down again. Moaning, screaming, don't pretend. Wanna hear my name, the gritted teeth and a heavy breath. Lose yourself with me and you, and tell me what you wanna do, and we'll dance. We'll dance till the morning.
So I really like the mix. So it's interesting. A couple people said, it depends how you look at it. Like the drums could be louder. I think a lot of the time they could be. But then I listened to the Hammond is like really competing with the lead vocal at times. It's like really, and then so also is the electric piano. So for me, I would bring the drums up a dB for a start, just all over. Initially, just bring the drums up a dB. So let's do that. Let's now take the piano and bring that a dB down all over. Then take the Hammond and just bring that down a dB and a half. And then really reevaluate it from there. It's almost like I don't I don't know what else I would do except do those things, because all of those things are going to completely change the rebalance of the mix. Drums up a dB, piano down a dB and a half, dB, maybe even a dB and a half, and Hammond down like a dB and a half. So if you start, it's really like kind of incremental, because you go drums up, those two elements down, and then you might be looking at it going, well, maybe the vocal still has to come up a little bit now. But those three things are going to completely change the balance of the mix. And I think it's important to remember that, that when you do global things like that, the whole thing will reappear. But, it's very well EQ'd, very well compressed, very sort of all the ideas are chosen really well. And I really like it. I think with those three global things, it might be near perfect. It's really tough, because if you start making EQ decisions based on that mix as it is, I don't think that's a smart thing. I think do those three major things, and it might be really, really super close. Possibly four things by bringing up the vocal a bit. Drums up. See, because you think about this, drums up a dB and a half, then the other two elements down a dB and a half each. You've created a 3 dB space between where the volume of the drums were and the organ, and especially the piano, which was driving the song. That's a huge differential. And now you need to listen to it. Stephen, listen to the mix then before making any other decisions. It's something that we forget. If we start thinking about EQ and volume at the same time, you've got to remember that is not a smart way of working, because you might be hearing something as too loud, but it's too bright, or you might be hearing something as too bright, but it's really just too loud because it's balanced. I think in this instance, it's a volume thing initially. Both those keys down a dB and a half each. Drums up globally a dB and a half. Vocals up probably a dB. Then print the mix and have a listen from there. Because a lot of those comments I agree with, but I think they're solved by big volume moves. Otherwise, it's really well mixed, because the EQ choices are all really good. The compression's great. You know what I mean? It's really about getting that. I wouldn't add any verb or anything yet. I would get those big things done. You know what I mean? Definitely get those big things done. Then look at it and go, okay, where do I need to tweak from here? All right. Great work, Stephen. Really, really great. And I love that song. Thanks everybody that does that. And thanks everybody that does everything. All right. There's no discussion here. It's Joe Wagner, and posted his new song. And it looks like brave of you said to have a go at this one. Oh, yeah. Colfax. This is recorded on tape and then transferred to be mixed in Pro Tools, but all recorded on tape.
I start on 6th, landed York and Maine. Something in the air got me on the cusp of sane. Whatever you heard, it's only hate I abhor. Love still lives here just down a couple doors. No one will mess with me now. The twisted hang all fine and polished gangster-leans. The old busted tooth, fairies on the scene. Believe what you want, but she's been down here for weeks. She's got 2 gold caps on her back where wings had been. No one will mess with her now. Sooner or later, you best choose which side you're on. Sooner or later, you best choose which side you're on. These just cold, these just hard, these just facts. on the telepose, and they look down on the world through tiny little holes. So say what you will, you've been seen here before, but we all got our reputations to uphold. No one will mess with you now. It won't cool off by morning, gonna be hot all night. Everyone's here, and don't I make it right? So don't go and take this all wrong when I say, whatever you're into, just carry on, 'cause no one will mess with you now. Sooner or later, you best choose which side you're on. Sooner or later, you best choose which side you're gonna feel. And these just cold, these just hard facts. From the heart of cold facts. From the heart of cold facts.
What a beautiful way to finish. Thank you, Jay, for doing that. It's such a wonderful song. So this is an interesting one. Chris will probably, if Chris is still here, because Chris is really good with low end. Him and Peter Samuelson always know where I'm coming from this. And so I feel like this is an interesting one because the kick is kind of a knocking a little bit. There's definitely some low end in there, don't get me wrong. But because it's a stand-up bass, a double bass, a contrabass, a acoustic bass, stand-up bass, whatever you want to call it, it's difficult to think of having any extra low lows in there. I feel like I don't know if I would add anything else. It's a bit knocking, kind of got a kind of sound on the kick drum, but I like it. And here's your choice. You could get in there and you could high pass the stand-up bass a little bit more and then put a little tiny bit more low lows on that kick drum. But it is definitely going to be a case of like either or. It's like, what would you rather do? You know, so that's a tough one. I feel like this works, but there is other ways of doing it. How about that? This works. You could keep it like this and it's perfectly acceptable and people would be like, wow, what a cool mix. But you could also try just high passing a bit more aggressively on the stand-up bass and adding some bit more low lows to the kick. It's a really difficult one, Jay, because stand-up basses, you know, double basses, acoustic basses, contrabasses, whatever you want to call them, have have a very unique role, you know, because they are so dynamic. They move from really, really low lows right up to sort of like, you know, in the mids and stuff. It's a difficult one. I think this works, but you could, Jay, if you wanted, tighten that low end on the bass and put a little bit more boost on the kick. Then the second thing is like, I really like it from a perspective of taking the snare and feeding it into some verb. It creates a different kind of room expanse to what I had. This drum room is one of my favorite drum rooms. It no longer exists, but it was my old studio. As you've heard me say 1,000 times and now 1,001 times, this is the How to Save a Life drum room. It's like that drum sound. It's many, many records that I did I'm super proud of. James Blunt, Augustana, lots of stuff was cut in this room. So huge fan of it, and that's definitely not the natural room, but it's also quite creative. You know, if you listen to that reverb that Jay's added on the snare.
I start on 6th, land at York and Maine. Something in the air got me on the cusp of sane.
What you're probably hearing, Raul, is when it hits together. So when the bass and the kick hit together, you get this beautiful round low end. Have a listen.
I start on 6th.
There. Hear that low lows on the bass? And it's really fulfilling. That's the low end I want to hear all the time. Here.
I start on 6th.
There.
Start on 6th. Landed.
It's gorgeous. Now imagine if you had that controlled on the bass and on the... So the bass was performing like super, like solidly. That's usually an MV2 or something like that. And that little subbiness. And you had that everywhere.
I start.
The what note here?
I start on 6th.
Difference. You hear that click, and then you hear that thumb. So it's not about like where it's coming from. Of course it is about where it's coming from. But what I'm saying is like an evenness of that fullness. It's a tough one. This works. This sounds good. But, however, you could sculpt it a little bit more so there's a bit more consistent subbiness from the kick. But I've got to be honest, I really do like the mix, and I'm very reluctant to be critical of it because I think it's a fantastic mix. And like I said, it's a reimagining of the way I did it. It's not totally different, but it's a little different. You know, taking the snare and feeding that to the verb really does change the room aspect and makes it feel, you know, a little bit different, but wonderful mix and a great way to finish up. Thank you, Jay. Wow. God bless it. You all absolutely rock. That's a nice long marathon session, a good 3 hours. And very excited. Looks like my piano's arriving. He's so funny. All right. Have a marvelous time, everybody. Speak to you all again very soon. See you next week. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios. Yeah, it's going to be a lot.